So my title is To the Moon, a startup mindset for deploying self-service analytics across the enterprise. And for those who don't know, To the Moon is a reference to adoption. I had explained this to our legal counsel to get this released. Okay, so hi, I'm Mike. I'm wearing the only shirt that I own. So this is the second time I've done this for this talk. I lead a team of data scientists and data analysts in the Westlake digital office. We also have a digital applications group, a digital operations lead who's here with us, and we're led by the chief digital officer, Konstantin Kalisios. So you can see we're not a very big group. So we're about 12 to 15 folks in our team. So let me give you a little bit of who Westlake is. So we might be new to a lot of you, and we've changed over time. This is a pretty busy diagram, and it's intended to be because we're a very integrated company. So we have lots of manufacturing, both on the chemical side all the way through to discrete, and we do batch in the middle. So there's a lot of integrations that are happening. We have over 15,000 employees, so we're a fairly large company in terms of people. And we have over 100 facilities across the US and global. So a brief history of where Westlake started and where we are today. In 1986 was actually our first facility in the Gulf Coast. And then over time, we've acquired and grew through expansions quite rapidly in the last 5 years, especially, to now being quite a large company. And the digital office you can see that I'm a part of has just been added at the tail end. So we are very new to the organization. In terms of growth, over the past 10 years, we've gone from around 700 million per year in EBITDA to closer to 4 billion. I don't think we've announced our 2022 quite yet, but around that range. So we've grown quite a lot in terms of the size of our company's profits. And I do want to point out in green, these are all of our acquisitions. So we have a lot of facilities that were bought by us over the years, and some of these are even acquisitions. So there's companies in companies. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of an overview of what we're tasked to do in the digital office. Hope you like Venn diagrams. I got a couple of them. You can see in the middle of this one, it's all about the data, and 3 core areas that need to come together. So at the top, always at the top, is business. This also is our manufacturing organization, which is like a business. On the right-hand side is the IT organization. So at Westlake, the digital group is not in IT. So we are a separate organization from IT. And then there's us. So we're on this side doing the evolution, but working on the foundation with IT. So we are supporting IT in that way. And one thing that's really important to us is that everything we do, everything we prioritize is based on benefits. So we don't have a task to just digitize everything at Westlake. We have a task to improve the company and measure those benefits. So we identified for measurable benefits 10 main initiatives, and this isn't only manufacturing, this also includes customer experience and supply chain logistics, so quite a tall task for us. And one of those 10 is a really important one because of the size of our group, is self-service analytics, because we can't be everywhere all at once. We have 15,000 employees. We have lots of data scientists embedded in them, and we want to make ourselves multipliers, and we want to get these great tools in their hands. Okay, so we have this digital evolution. How do we get things done being so small? Well, we really believe in the startup mindset. We want to have this ability to be very agile, just like a startup. And to do this, what's really important, we talked about this a bunch, is around obsessing over customers. This is about the end user. The user experience dominates. And that's what we really try to preach in our group. And also using an agile mindset. So being able to be very iterative. We experiment, we get feedback, we always bring the end customer into the conversation. So with every sprint, it ends with a review. You review with the customer, you find some feedback, you make adjustments, then you go off to do the next sprint. And finally, and this one's, for our group's really a lot of fun, is that we do whatever it takes to get the job done. So we wear lots of different hats, and we're happy to pick up whatever kind of tool we need to get the job done. Okay, so let's talk about our self-service analytics deployment and what we started with. So the situation we had was a successful deployment of a self-service analytics tool at one of our plants across those 100 plants at one of them. And it was a really interesting use case where they had data coming from the OT world that came into the IT network. So this is your typical historian data. But they were able to do something with it that previously you didn't see a lot of examples at Westlake, and this is about contextualizing it. So taking that information that if you're doing it in Excel or some sort of traditional tool can be really problematic, and it's really hard to be able to do it, and definitely not to do it at scale. They shared this success with the broader community within Westlake and really demonstrated a value case that other groups really got interested about. And they thought, hey, there's something here that we could take and do at our site. And what came out of this was a great opportunity for a pilot. And I think really shows what a good successful pilot looks like. Taking a pilot user across multiple sites, they really got excited about it and said, you know what, I think there's something here. And so we brought that opportunity to a larger organization. So in this case, we brought it to the executives. And they said, okay, you're now challenged with getting this thing rolled out to the rest of the sites. So think about how do we do this in a small digital team to get this tool out to this very large community. So that was our challenge. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the solution. So this is a tool called Seek. So they're here today. And what we really like about it is the ability to meet the data where it is. In this case, a lot of this is at the sites. These are on-prem historians. We need to make connections to them. They have different, different styles. We don't have a lot of consistency at Westlake, so it's really important that the ability to abstract those differences. And so when you're using the platform, you don't know what type of historian or what type of data source you're actually connecting to. It all connects and looks the same. It's an analytics tool, so it's about analysis. We really like the ability for us to contextualize these time series signals. That's a main challenge with trying to extract information in the manufacturing space. And people spend lots and lots of time within Excel trying to do things that Excel is not meant to do. But this solution is intended for that time series data. And if you're a data scientist, like you are on my team, you're really excited about how it integrates with the Python world and makes it super easy for you to talk with the domain experts, sharing analysis, getting iterative, and updating your models. And then finally, the operational capabilities. So this is really about people making decisions with this information and the ability to go from development, you make a model, you show it to an end user, they have feedback, you update it, you ultimately say it's ready, it deploys in a click of a button. So the ability for us to scale with that kind of solution. Okay, so to really get this going, we have to handle a couple of things. One thing we have to deal with is how we actually treat each of these sites. And so you may have heard of this traditional model called hub and spoke, where you have a central organization that has some capabilities, and they try to disseminate that out to these individual spokes. So some characteristics of a hub and spoke model is that you expect some consistency so that the way that you're going to deploy something is very similar across each of these organizations. You also expect it to be unidirectional, so where the hub is directing outward towards the spokes. And then also you expect some maturity to be consistent. So where they are in their analytics journey has to be very similar to take this kind of analytics. But the reality at Westlake is that nothing is consistent. So we are a company that's made up of lots of other companies. In a lot of cases, we have work processes that are unique and systems that are unique to those individual spokes. So, the reality is these spokes have very different organizational makeups. They also are the experts at their space. And so they need to be pushing that expertise back to the hubs and then ultimately into the other spokes. And also they have various analytics maturity levels. So some people are doing very advanced things and we just need to enable them. Others need to be shepherded along and they need to really start from the ground up and we need to accommodate for that. So we're not building spokes. No one likes to be a spoke. Are there any spokes in the audience? Anyone proud to be a spoke? No, no one wants to be a spoke. We're trying to build franchises. So franchises is what it's all about. And let me describe what a franchise is. So a franchise has a little more variation. So you have variability between one or the other. A franchise also has best practices that the franchise brings back to the broader organization. And finally, a franchise has a bottom incremental kind of growth. And that's really important for us, that it comes from the bottom. Oh, it looks like Drake doesn't like that name. There we go. We're from Texas, so in case you didn't know. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we go from pilot to production? I know it was mentioned a couple of times earlier about the pilot purgatory, getting stuck in this pilot phase and never getting out of it. So the way we did it was start very small, but we think very big. And then finally, you move very fast. So in the start small phase, this is the pilot, and something that I feel like really sets you up for success or failure, is really try to think about how to make this bigger than any very small group. And to do that, you want to have multiple franchises involved in that pilot so that there's no one group that's controlling it. And you also want to make sure the pilot is driven by a business stakeholder, and this was critical in our case, that it wasn't being driven by people that just love cool new toys. This was driven by somebody that had a business objective. And then finally, early adopters only. Early adopters only, people that want to do this, because when you're trying something out new, it's inevitably going to be hard at first. All right, in the next phase, this is around procurement and thinking big. This took quite a while for us, so I wish you all the best if you get through your procurement organization faster than we do. One thing that we really consider the success of this is getting that business stakeholder buy-in yet again to think about something large in terms of a deployment and to think about an enterprise deployment. And this is where you have to think strategically and say, this is worth an investment, and we see this as a multi-year opportunity that's going to take a little bit of time to roll out. And in that conversation, making sure the end users, the franchise owners, are the ones that are pulling for this. And this isn't coming from this new guy from digital office that loves the cool new toy. So once you've gotten through that procurement phase, now it's time to move. And so this is the time where you start deploying the solution out to the franchises. And to do this, the agile mindset is really critical. Focusing on the customer's needs and measuring your success throughout the process. And what's really important too is the right skills and passion in a deployment team themselves. So they're going to get up and work extra hard to get it done. So what do you need in this deployment team? So right on the top, domain understanding. So someone that can truly empathize with the end users. So someone who's been in their shoes. This is an analytics tool. So having analytics skills is extremely important. You got to be able to understand how to use this tool. And then finally, technical skills. So I'm really referring to the IT components to a solution like a self-service tool. This way, you can understand if there are any issues, how to correct them. And fortunately for us, we have Greg. So this is Greg Parkinson from our team. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to come today, so this is the part where he usually steps in. But Greg was an engineer who became a data analyst, has all these skills, and has been driving our Seek deployment. So, what's really important, what we learned throughout this process was around partnerships. Because it's not just the digital office that's going to get this done. This is really about a team. And at the top of that partnership is a franchise owner. So this is the person who has that business objective, who's going to be able to write a check if we need to, and who's going to be able to be driving this for their business or their site. We also need a deployment lead. So this is someone who is boots on the ground, embedded inside of that franchise. When Mike or Greg from corporate sends an email and says, hey, this is a great tool, go check it out, they're going to delete it. They're not interested in what we have to say. But a deployment lead carries a lot of weight, and they can get the job done and get people excited. And then also power users. So we have to identify some folks that are going to be the ones that are going to pick it up and run with it, and be the ones that are going to be evangelizing the capabilities of these tools once they get in their hands. And also prove the value. And then finally, you need to have an IT historian guru. Inevitably, things are going to come up, especially in a company like Westlake that has lots of variability. And having someone who can just do it without going through a lot of hoops, and get the plants connected and data running through the system. And then I'd also want to call it the vendor team. So having the people that are the true experts of the product with you along the way, getting them involved as much as possible has been very beneficial. Okay, so a couple of tips that I'd recommend if any of you are going through this journey is one, starting with low-hanging fruit. I mean, it sounds kind of obvious, but maybe it's not all the time. So go where there's going to be success with a high likelihood of success. And this is where plants already have a maturity level of analytics, so they have people that can pick up these tools and run with them, and also people that obviously are naturally curious that want to try new technologies. Another thing that's really important, and we really emphasize this throughout our deployment, is to make it easy. You don't want to add extra hoops to jump through to get someone trained, to get someone accessed, to get someone data, to get some sort of advanced analysis that we could provide from my team. So we constantly make these steps as easy as possible. And then finally, building a community of practice. So what's great about an enterprise self-service tool is that we can build on a common platform analyses and share those with one another. We have similar problems across these sites, even if they're making different things. And being able to share with one another and go to each other when you need help has been really beneficial. And we're really focusing on that now in our stage of the deployment. Okay, so where are we today? So we're about 9 months into this journey. So we're still in a very early stage. And what we're doing is tracking our progress and really focusing on where we need to go next. So far, we have 165 folks on the platform, and this is across 9 different sites. So we have 9 deployments, and we have many more coming the rest of this year. And what's really exciting is that we're starting to see growth in using the platform. So it's not just the number of people on it, but how much they're doing on it that's really starting to show an increase. So what we saw in the fourth quarter of last year is this basically the same number of people are doing more within that platform. And we want to see this trajectory going to the moon, like we said at the beginning. And with that, I'll be finished. Thank you.